But Sharpay was justified in the first movie. In what way, shape, or form? Like, listen, here's the thing. We all have blind spots. We all have more to learn. I think most people, because of Sharpay's very specific nastiness in High School Musical 2, people understand to an extent how she was wrong in that movie. But the first movie, there's almost a justification of like, well, of course she would act like this. Troy Bolton was coming into her theater, which is like, okay, let's all deconstruct. A High School Musical movie, right? About the status quo, breaking free of the status quo, learning we're all in this together, right? The status quo of what holds us back from doing things, right? Why do we want to keep people in their places? And what happens when people try to break free of the status quo? Everybody freaks out in their own ways, shapes, or forms. We know Sharpay has had the privilege from a young age to explore her musical theater career, right? And she has held the power of having the lead for the past 17 years. So when a newbie comes along, I understand she wants to maybe still be the lead, right? So she can feel a little bit threatened, right? That like, this new guy's gonna come in here and take over. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. But remember, she is in a position of privilege in the theater, right? Sharpay starts to feel threatened. Like, oh, like I've been the star for this long. And if you remember in the first movie, no one else was signing up to audition for the pairs audition. It was just Sharpay, just Ryan, okay? So they were gonna guarantee to get the spot, right? Sharpay doesn't just want to be in a good musical, right? It's not just about, well, I want us to all be good. I want this musical to go down well. No, no, no. She wants to lead, right? And she goes, well, maybe there'll be a supporting role for you, because she doesn't believe that you should have the accessibility into the theater, right? Like, if you're not deemed good enough, like, honestly, you gotta stay back and just let me do my thing because I'm the real star of the show, right? What's keeping Troy back from trying out for the musical? The status quo of patriarchy. Okay, think about that for a second. So we can understand that Sharpay's like, oh, this is the first time that she has been challenged, right? And here's the thing. If you really think you shine the brightest, what's a little competition? That's life for you, okay? Now, she's threatened because they're new. Maybe they want some new meat in the theater. That's okay. And clearly that was the case for Miss Darbus, right? However, it is wrong what she did. She not only discredits them, saying that they're not doing it to be serious, right? Like, they're doing it to make fun of us, right? She also is saying, like, you're not as good as me, therefore, like, honestly, like, if you want a part, like, obviously you're gonna accept your place in the pyramid here, right? Like, you're not up where I am, so you just have to accept that. Like, if you want to be part of the musical, this is where you'll be. Like, right, like, you shouldn't even have an opportunity to challenge me, right? Which we all know, if you're so good, then go up against them, no problem. You know what I mean? So she made them seem like they could not even try out for the part, which it's not a crime. If a famous actor and a non-famous actor try out for the same part for the movie, does that mean the non-famous actor is not allowed to get the part because they don't have as much experience under their belt? No, that's not a rule. That actually is not a rule. So we need to be looking at Sharpay's storyline through positions of power, right? Why do we want to keep people out of the theater, right? It's not just because of how well everyone is doing in the theater, right? Because that's clearly not the point. Sharpay wants to be the one and only one and the one who has to say. He thinks they shouldn't even be trying out for a lead. She thinks they don't have the right intention, so I'm gonna try to discredit you in front of Miss Darbus, right? Which she does in the lunchroom after Gabriella accidentally spills her nachos on him, right? And at the end of the day, they're just trying to break free of the status quo. They're having a little fun together. Hey, that's allowed. It's high school. What other time in your life, Miss Darbus says that in High School Musical 3, when Troy, after Scream, when he's debating, musicals or basketball, right? Like, when you're young, you have more opportunities to explore these things, right? And as you get older, those things get harder, which is why Miss Darbus threw in his name for the Juilliard Scholarship in the first place. Just to remind him, he has a choice, and better to try to figure this out now than when it's going to get harder down the line for various reasons. When you have more opportunities to try on as many different hats as you'd like to in high school, to really think, what do I really like? Also, you're allowed to like something and just enjoy it, right? Like, you're allowed to be in your High School Musical and not want to pursue theater after that. That is also okay too. But also, what does she do when she can't get them to not audition? She says, okay, Gabriella has the decathlon, Troy has a big game at the same time. Let's change the callbacks to the same time as those things, right? Because I'm going to prove that I want this more, because this is my one and only thing, and this is where my loyalty lies. Let's see where yours lies, right? And I'm going to try to keep you out. And she thinks, okay, what are the chances that they're going to get to the audition, and they're not. We're all in this together. They make the plan. They get to their callback audition. We break free. We break free. So, was Sharpay, now, like I said, worst of the worst, High School Musical 2. But Sharpay was not justified. And if we keep looking at that lens to watch what she does in her storyline and feel like, well, it makes sense, she had a reason. Like, you're giving justification to so many other things. And you gotta think about that, like, how that translates to other things, right? Because we can understand how, like, the other things that are not included in this movie about a man coming into space, right? But that we're not covering that in this movie. There's a purpose to the storyline here. So we can talk about all the other, things that exist in, in the outside world, but we're talking about the movie itself here. So it's like, guys, let's look at Sharpay's storyline, what she does in the first movie, and also she does similar thing in the second movie as well, which is very interesting. It's just like very in your face obvious in the second movie as compared to, well, I would say it's honestly pretty obvious in the first movie, but High School Musical 2 was another level of nasty from Sharpay. But guys, at the end of the day, why do you feel like Sharpay was justified in what she does? Because at the end of the day, there is no reason to keep someone out, right? Anyone can audition for the musical, and it's high school. It's not Broadway, mind you. It's not Broadway. It's okay to be in your High School Musical. It's okay to be a lead in your High School Musical and not give a fuck about theater afterwards, because that's something you're allowed to do, okay? And if you're gatekeeping who can come into the theater, who is allowed to even audition for the same spot as you, and if you don't get your way, how are you going to abuse your power to try to keep other people out? That's the story we need to be looking at, guys. That's the story we need to be looking at, because that is the issue with Sharpay, right? It's not just, oh, she was just trying to keep the status quo. That's the whole point. How do people use their power, right? Whether in any way, shape, or form, right? Whether they're at the top or they're at the bottom, to police the status quo. That is an issue. We're breaking free. We're soaring, flying. There's not a star that we can't reach. If we're trying, we're breaking free. And that's the point. And this is interesting because I'm trying to get better at not saying villain, because she's not like a mwahaha evil villain in the way that she's like always calculated. I would say she's more calculated in High School Musical 2 than anything, right? But if we just say she's the villain, she's the bad guy, right? People don't want to analyze her behaviors as the antagonist to be like, okay, why was this wrong, right? You may feel like this is the right way to go about for you, but what Sharpay is doing is wrong. And that's the problem. And that was something you were supposed to know in High School Musical. You know what I mean? Like, now, whether or not the theater was a great way to get about this, I'm not entirely sure. I couldn't say that. So I can understand, like, how people, like, start to go, oh, wait, but, like, Troy was coming in. But, like, that's the point of the movie. You know what I'm saying? So, like, let's really look at how Sharpay was an antagonist. What she was doing was wrong, right? There is nothing, even if you are not consciously aware of how you are upholding the status quo, doesn't mean that you don't take any accountability for it, right? We enforce the status quo in ways that we may be conscious of, and in ways that we may not be conscious of, right? Maybe Sharpay has not really analyzed the way she is acting, right, to not do that, but like it doesn't mean that she wasn't in the wrong. She was.